Quiet on the set. Here we go. Five, four, three, two, one. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Welcome to Mondays with Myrt, where we talk about anything and everything that's come across our Genia desk in the last week since last we met. What I'd like to do is introduce you to some of our panelists today. On the YouTube side, we have Sherry and we have Melinda, and they're managing the comments. And let's see who's here. There's my neighbor, Toasty, down there in Tokerville, and I may not be pronouncing that correctly. Hi, Maria. Let's see, Flo's here. There's our Melinda post, and you can tell that she's one of the admins and co hosts over there because that little gear by her name. Deneen is here. Hi, dear. Um, Paul is here. Oh, Sheila. Under an interesting name. Um, and with the Mr. Myrt icon. That's what I call that. Hi, Paul. He's here. Yeah, I've heard it's misty over there in the San Diego area because there's three of you, two panelists, and you that are in that greater San Diego area. It's all very good. Let's see who else is here. Valerie's here. Ellen is here. We keep losing her. Sometimes she's able to stay with us. I think at this point she is that icon that has a generic picture because to increase her bandwidth, this is a trick. When you have trouble staying connected, you can mute your or turn off your webcam like Ellen has done there just below me on the screen. And that way we can still hear you, right, Ellen? Speak. She can't hear her. Maybe she didn't hear me. I don't know. Here's Miriam. And Miriam and I have embarked on a month-long writing accountability
Oh,
system. And so we meet once a week for just an hour. At the beginning of the hour, we set our goals for that session. We're good friends from our toddler years, way back. We're not old, are we, Miriam? We are grandmas, though. That's true. And then we, after that 5 minute, what are our goals for that hour? We work together separately. It's parallel play like kindergarten. We use Zoom. We work on our various projects. Occasionally, we might talk to the other person, but not really. And then, about 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the hour, we touch base again about, what did we learn about our writing? Or in my case, I was trying to get reoriented to WordPress again. It's a blogging platform. So, shout out to you, Miriam. Sherry's the other one over there on the YouTube side who has that little crescent wrench icon, meaning she is handling the fact that we want to have only good comments. Anybody that we can't bribe, they're out. No, we keep hecklers out. Yeah, and I love it. Okay. And I think and Frank is here and there, so it's all good. He's also, but I didn't ask you to work over there, but he is I'm going to have you be on this side, Frank. And if we need to post a link and you happen to get it before I do, go ahead and send it out in comments. Okay. Thank you. It's fun to have. Do you see how many people it takes to do Cousin Russ's job? Thank you, Maria, for being the one to keep me on track.
you're welcome.
Yeah. All right. What should we do first? Let's have everybody go in the wings. And what I'll do is just tell you a little bit more about what we're going to be doing. This week, we're going to show how to set up a blog at Blogger. Eventually, we're all going to have to publish. And the trouble with publishing a book is that as soon as you publish it, it gets old. So a blog is a good way to get going. Just ask Randy Seaver. Just ask Bill West, who calls his blog what does he call it? It's really a cousin bait because people search the web and up comes his blog. Yeah. It's all that's going to be an interesting thing. There is another topic that we're going to discuss, and it's why we need to cite our sources that are online with the date we viewed. And Randy has a great example for that. The date we viewed that source online. Some people aren't doing that, and you want to cover your tushy. Just want to be informative. Okay. Another thing that we're going to be talking about, let me look at the docket here. Oh, yeah. Legacy Family Tree has a brand new version 10. And I've been told it is okay with Western European dia the accent aigu and accent grave and things like that, but not good on Eastern Europe. I was curious about that. So let me send the link out to the Legacy Family Tree. There we go. What's new in the new version? And here we go. Hi, Andrew from the UK and Betty Lou from Arkansas. It's all good. All right, another thing we're going to be talking about a voice of reason as to whether or not we should identify if we are using AI in our research reports, in our analysis and correlation. It depends. So, kind of cool. Yeah, Valerie, you know what I'm talking about. Um, the more complete our sources are, the better. Okay, so I would like actually, now that you put all the panelists in the backstage, could you bring them up? Because I would really like to have them around to talk with me. There's Frank, our guy in Germany. Hi, Frank. There's Gwen, our gal in California. Maria in Pennsylvania. Randy, Randy has a different challenge. His webcam decided it wasn't going to work this morning. And he rebooted, which is the normal challenge or the normal solution, first thought to do it, and didn't seem to make much of a difference. So he's going to be here in voiceover, great radio voice that he has. And the reason I tell you these things is that if you decide to use Zoom, or in this case, we use StreamYard because it's very reliable and web based. Remember, I'm on an island, not very good internet. If you decide to host a meeting for your society and it's online, sometimes these things happen for your guest speaker, for the president who's making the announcements, whatever it is. And I want you to know it's okay to go forward as long as you can hear each other. So Randy says, yeah, a face made for radio. Oh, you're so cool. You really are. Okay. So what we're going to do first is go and create a blog post. So, Gwen, you have a blog?
I do. I started it. I guess a long time ago after I went to Jamboree at one point.
We used to do the blogger summits down there, huh?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay. And Randy, we know, has a blog because we're always talking about what he's writing about. He is arguably the most prolific genealogy blogger in the in the world, in the universe. I can say that. Melinda says, "You're not alone today, Randy. My camera doesn't like me either. It's just technology." Okay, so I'm going to, and Frank, you have a blog as well.
Yep.
And Maria, you don't blog, but
No.
you microblog. Occasionally, you'll put something up on Facebook.
Yep.
That's called microblogging.
Okay.
And yeah, microblogging is, how should we put that? Um, It's where you use another website that you don't have control over, like
Mhm.
Instagram or Threads or one of those kind of things,
Mhm.
or Facebook.
Right.
Now, and that's because things scroll off into the, the Ethernet, the internet, intraweb, whatever you want to call it. And they're not easily searchable and findable again, which can be pretty darn frustrating if what you want to do is create an archive
Mhm.
of blog posts about your family, about your hobby, if it's cooking or quilting, whatever it is. Now, blogging is not hard. All of us are accustomed to doing email. And so the form that we use in Blogger looks like email, has a subject line which becomes the title of your post, of individual posts. You can add graphics, etc. And welcome back, Randy. Okay, so let me share my screen. Do you think that'd be good? Um, Let me do this here, but I want everyone to know that you all are in the background and are free to jump in at any point in time. In fact, Melinda, if you want to speak, you may. We can bring you up. Let us know in the private chat. Okay, so here we are, and I want to talk to you about all the apps that you have if you happen to have a Gmail account. Um, uh, Betty Lou has a good point. The hardest part about blogging is keeping it going. And oh yeah, Janine, your husband agrees. Okay. Um, Paul said he's been doing the micro blogging lately, but he needs to get back into serious blogging. And Paul, one of the ways you can do it, since you already have a blog, is to take some of those micro blogs and and just before they go away from Facebook. And I'm talking your trips, that great shot you got where you left your tripod, climbed a huge mountain in the desert, and remotely had it, cause the shutter to click and take that shot. That's what I'm doing. I'm going through some of my old blog posts and putting them in the new area, so that I can get back into the swing of it. And that's why I'm meeting with Miriam every week for a month of June. So yeah, let's get back into it. People don't realize that they have a YouTube channel already, and a calendar, and and Drive Space, Google Drive Space, etc. And one of the things that you have is Blogger, and that's this icon here. See, I'm moving it around, and I'm actually going to move it up higher if I can. Yes, I can. I'm going to move it up here by most of us have Gmail, and that's all we do. But all of these resources or platforms are provided to you. You may have to activate them. Did you know you had a blog, Maria?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so all right, so when you click on this blogger icon, that's a platform, and Randy uses that um, for creating a blog. And here's how you do it. It's very easy to do it. I think I'm going to zoom in just slightly. So basically, they give you all kinds of advice here that you're going to choose a design. It's okay if it's Dear Myrtle at blogspot.com. Don't have to buy a dearmyrtle.com space. I did just to protect my name. You don't have to monetize it. You could earn money if you want to, but that's not my goal.
Mm-mm.
And Maria, I see you're shaking your head there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then know your audience. Now, know your audience is really like you could decide to make your blog totally private so that only you and your spouse and your siblings and maybe your children and grandchildren could be invited to view it. But basically, a genealogist blog goal is to create an interesting website in the way of a blog. It's a website, a web presence to attract and share, no, to give and take, attract and share information about your ancestors. We used to use message boards to get the word out that I'm related to Johann Conrad Weiser and his son Conrad Weiser, French and Indian war colonel. And we'd have to figure out dates and things, and we would have a little paragraph that we would create. But knowing your audience um, can also make a difference for people like me who know that most of my listeners are from the United States. Most of my listeners, most of the people that have come to Mondays with Myrt, to my blog, my old blog, or my YouTube channel. And so I tend to publish something um, that will appear starting at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Saturday is a good day. But I have become internationally known thanks to our friends overseas. And so it really doesn't matter to me anymore. I post whenever I'm able to. Hang on to your memories. Somebody had a question and asked, what about specific Facebook pages dedicated to one family line? Gwen, you're allowed to interject, all of you. That's a good point, though. Um, it still goes away. When I have looked for some of the things that I posted maybe 2 years ago in the Dear Myrtle Facebook group, that's a dedicated Facebook group, or it could be a page, it's already scrolled off into oblivion unless Facebook decides to give me a memories pop up. It gives you memories every day. Doesn't pop up, you have to go looking for your memories. Frank, what are you telling me here?
You were the fault that I started blogging
Yeah?
because when I started doing microblogs on Facebook, you simply said, "Yeah, the blog posts are way too long, and I don't have the time to read them now.
Yeah.
So please put them online so you can subscribe to them and read them later."
Yeah, you can only do what you can do. And you have to, but this YouTube, no, Facebook, you don't have control over those photos um, and you can't always go back and edit. Believe me, I know how to edit Facebook posts on both pages and groups and on my own wall. Um, yeah, you want to be able to put tables and charts and oh, anyway. So here's how quick and easy it is to create a blog. Enough talking. Create. Oh, you wanted to say something? Okay. Create your blog. Okay, we're signing in as Dear Myrtle Archive. Okay, I'm going to come over here and do my password. Criminy. What is my password? Okay. Geesh, I just had it set up. Gwen, tell me about your blog while I'm trying to remember my password, okay?
Use Google.
I know. Okay.
Well, I've just been focusing on. I've been doing this big Scotch Irish research project, and there's so many parts to it; it gets confusing. So I've been focusing on that in my blog, and just if I come across something interesting, like writers of the signet for Scotland or something, some of my ancestors were seal collectors, so they collected,
Yes.
signet seals and stuff like that. So just I like to
Yeah.
put new and different things on there. So it's kind
Okay.
of
And
yeah. So it's just,
Cousin Russ did that. Just a second. Okay, it's still asking me for that. Didn't like that. Oh. We may have to have someone help and do the lightning round while I figure out my password. Oh, nothing like being unprepared. Okay, I might have to go to my old blogger. Okay, it is correct. It's no capital letters. All right, let me go back. Um, Cousin Russ had several blogs for different purposes, one for Family Tree Maker and one for his research, because he didn't want to combine the two. Um, and when you went to his Family Tree Maker blog, he had things for earlier versions. He had a whole category, a whole tab at the top for earlier versions of, okay, sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. Earlier versions of Family Tree Maker. So that archived all of his old work, didn't want to delete it, but his new work were what was being newly published. Okay, so let me talk with you about one of the challenges that people have. You may have heard that there's an issue with the European Union residents because of GDPR. Blogger has taken care of that, so has WordPress. There has to be the consent regarding data, like there'll be a pop-up. And so Google has taken care of it for us. Google owns Blogger. Google owns Gmail. All we need to do is come up with a title for our blog. So I'm going to call it Dear Myrtle Archives, okay? And I think I'll put apostrophe S. That's easy. I do actually have one by this, and I will say temp. That way, if somebody comes across it, they won't confuse it with my real one. Okay, I've got 100 possible characters to use here. It needs to be very, you don't want to list all the surnames you're going to post, because you know what's going to happen. You're going to find another surname once you find that wife's maiden name. So it needs to be my genealogical journey, or, whatever, something like that. Just short and sweet. We click next, and I'm going to let it be Dear Myrtle's Archive. .blogspot.com is perfect. I didn't do an apostrophe because apostrophes don't appear in a web address. And that blog address is available. I don't know if you can see it in very grayed out. Whoops, we lost me. What happened?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think we went to a different share screen. Boy, it said stop. We'll go back in and share our screen again. I was typing. Oh, I love it. Okay, so I've only had to type two things. One of them was the name of it. Now we're trying to figure out a blog address that is available, and I cannot highlight that grayed out sentence there. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, now you can see it.
Yeah.
So that's going to actually be my web address for this blog. And I'll click next. And the name we want it to display at the top again. How do you want your name displayed to your readers of your blog? Now, I'm not sure what they're referring to there. So we're going to try something, because it's all editable except for that web address. Okay? The thing we just did of the web address itself, that cannot change. But I can change the title of the blog. I can change whatever this is when it says display name. But I think I will put Myrt there. And we shall see what happens. We'll click finish. Okay. So now we have This would be all our blogs, publish, draft, schedule. Gee, we can schedule in advance. Or the ones we put in the trash. Um, Here is the big plus sign. And that's where you can then add something. But there are no posts yet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There is also a way to manage a few things. But we're only going to create a post because I want you to see how easy it is. Does that look like email when you say, this is my first blog post? Now, some people say my I blogged. That's a verb. The entire space, Dear Myrtle Archive at blogspot.com, is the blog, and then there are individual articles that are posts. So it's kind of silly to say blog post. This is my first post, is reasonable. Notice that you have options where you can look at it if you want to be crazy. HTML, we haven't been doing that since HTML3. We use compose view. That's the default. Gee, there's the undo and redo. I don't know about you, but in my email and Microsoft Word, I'm comfortable with that. Font is default, but you can override it. These are the sizes of your font. And notice that it doesn't say 14 point or 20 point. In the world of the internet and web page design, and a post is part of a web page, those are the terms they use. And normal is just for normal typing. But there are paragraphs, major headings, subheadings. I can't scroll, so I will go make this like normal. And I just leave it on by default. There's bold, italics, underline. You can do strike through text, which is what I did when did I do that? Oh, when I was actually taking a transcription of something and part of it had been crossed out, like in a census. I still wanted that word there because I don't know if it got crossed out because it needed to be crossed out or what the deal was. And I was accurately trying to transcribe word for word, including the crossed out word, right there with the strike through option. You can change your text color. You can add specific colors. And these little notations, RGB, do you remember when we had TV tubes that were the heavy kind, and it took 3 colors to make the colors? That's what that is for red, green, and blue. Red 234, green, you don't even care about that. It's just that you can use the graphical user interface, or you could, if you were doing HTML coding and you were a nut for that, don't worry that you see that pop up. I don't worry about it. Do recognize that you probably want all of the text to be dark black, not those light grays like we saw earlier. Because who's your target audience? A lot of them are older people, and we have bifocals and trifocals.
And cataracts.
Yeah, I know. Let me see. We got some questions while we're thinking about it. Let's pull these in before I go too far. Yes, first of all, Betty Lou's right. It is possible to save Facebook posts. They are saved within Facebook. Do you trust Facebook? I love Facebook. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's why you have a password manager. I don't have it set up for that particular account, and I should. So you're right. Let's see. This is an interesting question. Is it good to use a separate Gmail for your blogging identity? Who will manage my blog when I can't if I'm paying for the site? What happens to my blog when I stop? So I do have, okay, Frank, go for it. Tell me what you're
Um,
thinking.
I have a separated mm, email address for my blog because I want to separate my private life and what I do in genealogy. But it depends, obviously, how frequently you're getting emails and how you want to connect with your readers.
Okay,
Um,
and yeah, go ahead.
and to the second question, what will do if you don't pay for this for a site? For example, Blogger, you don't pay at all. Same goes for my blog on WordPress. I don't pay a single penny for it, but it stays online for the eternity until some days either Blogspot or WordPress simply vanish from the surface of the earth.
Yes, I get it. Also, do think about the Internet Archive.
Yeah.
Internet Archive has every one of my old blogs, all my old posts, all my old blogs, the one I've done. You use the Wayback Machine to get there. Let me be sure I'm sharing my screen.
You are.
Yeah. So the Wayback Machine is where you would enter your URL, or it can be totally searchable. You could just use the search button. But if I needed to, we actually, thanks to Daniel Loftus, who's one of our panelists that's here in the United States traveling with his family at the moment, um, he archived all of my blog posts and pulled in all of my YouTube. There's a way to do it as a backup measure. But if I didn't have him and I just wanted to go look at something from my old blog, there it is. Okay, I could use the Wayback Machine. This is at archive.org. Let me send this out. Okay, there you go. And I also want to comment too. Frank is absolutely right that if it's the Dear Myrtle Archive at blogspot.com, that's free. And Blogger and Google will keep it. I have another option, and because I want to use my dearmyrtle.com space, I have information for my daughter Carrie to be able to make a final post my obituary, things like that to let people know. She's my exit strategy. Mr. Myrt's not a blogger. My daughter Carrie is is very into all things techie like that. Not that he isn't techie, but you know, theoretically he's going to be grieving. But I've already primed Carrie. She knows what she has to do. And I always pay years in advance for my .com site. So, yeah, she'll keep it going for another year. That's about it. That's my exit strategy. Any others? Randy, what did you decide to do?
Well, I started at randysmusing.blogspot.com,
Yeah.
and then in a year or so, I bought an URL from somebody, virginiamusings.com, and so that's what I do. But if I don't pay for that next year,
Yeah.
uh, it will revert to randysmusing.blogspot.com.
Yes, that's one interesting thing about it is that Blogspot lets us point to a specific URL, and that's what I did. until I got a WordPress blog. Uh, it was an old way, a former way of doing it, long before WordPress was invented, actually. Um, yeah. Okay, so this is Randy's website. And yep, it comes up. All right. Let's see. Who else has a comment? Okay, so WordPress is another blogging platform. It's a little more complicated, and I wanted you to see how easy it was to get to the point of actually posting something in a blog. Um, and Ellen says she pays for her web address. She started because she felt like she had something to share with others, and I think people will agree with that. All right. So this is what your data, this is where you would type the information. You may add a photo, upload it from your computer, or if it is in Google Photos or you've already used it before on Blogger. I never do it by URL because I don't know if that other website is going to remove that photo or have that website go away. But you can use Google Photos or Blogger. I'm just going to upload something from my computer. Choose a file. We'll go to, well, we'll just see what's here. Let's say I'm going to do an advertisement about who's in my line, Cousin Russ's program. Now, that's a very fun graphic, and you must put a graphic on every blog post.
Oh,
You don't have to as far as Blogger is concerned, but I am telling you, when somebody is considering looking at your blog and they do a mouse rollover, if it's just text, it's like, bleh. Like when you've looked for a recipe, you kind of look at the responses of a Google search and there'll be 5 or 6 recipes for, I don't know, lasagna soup, something I made last week. And you kind of go to the one that has the most interesting picture because what do we know? You know, and so we're figuring that it's an invitation, a friendly invitation. Now, what is the photo? It could be the photo of the ancestor. It could be, in this case, the photo advertising an event. It could be the document you just uncovered. If you think of all the documents you as a genealogist have collected, you could focus, as Randy does, on how do you say that word, Randy? Amanuensis?
Amanuensis.
Okay, I always get those two parts mixed up, and that's my brain scrambled today. But you do that, and tell me about that kind of a post, Randy.
Well, that's a transcription of a document. So I've done a number of probate records. I've done a number of land deeds, and I've done some Revolutionary War pension file elements. So I do it every week on Monday because in the beginning, we had all these themes. We had themes for every day of the week.
Yes.
And so I've kept some of those. I have Treasure Chest Thursday and not so wordless Wednesday and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So here we are today where you've done the 1823 land deed of Thomas Partridge,
Yep.
and you gave a locality and who he sold it to, and this is your wording.
Yep.
And then this is a hyperlink, and we see in the lower right-hand corner, and you're using Blogger, that you've inserted this hyperlink, and it is to an ARC URL, which means it's pretty permanent. And again, I'd have to log in. Yeah, I only use this computer basically to do Mondays with Myrt. I really ought to switch and use my other one. And why did you choose to change the color here and there? Like $250 is green.
It's too long, didn't read issue. And so I highlight names in red,
Mm-hmm.
highlight money in green, and I highlight dates in blue.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yep.
Because those are all the things that you would use for a abstract. You would also use the description of the property in an abstract. So
Mm-hmm. And he has a citation here.
I try.
Okay. All right. And when it has this little arc in it, that stays there pretty permanently. It's a persistent URL, theoretically, possibly.
Until they change it.
I know. I know. Okay. So I want us to actually go look at Dear Myrtle Archive at blogspot.com. And it's okay, it's not thinking about it yet.
Did you
It's
save
think
it?
what it's looking for is this is my actual current blog. Why did it do that? Because it probably hasn't been activated. So let's go back and we will log in. But did you see how easy it was to decide to do things like make things bold? When you put a URL to text, it automatically underlines just like you're accustomed to doing. And in email, so it's basically a non-issue. All right, here we are back. Watch what happens. Let me go to the end of this, press enter a couple of times. Notice that it still has me centered, and I've zoomed in so much we cannot see all the controls. Okay, so now we can see the controls to do the left align, center, right. I'm going to do left align. Standard protocol is left align, unless you're going to put a caption. And just as a point of information, I think it's best practice to if you have had the image shared, you can do it there. Give attribute. You think you want to do it there, but if you'll notice, that becomes the first text that somebody sees, so you probably don't want to do that. Let's preview what it will look like on the web. All right, so I keep getting this notice. We are only in preview mode, and ads go here. We have not a lot of control. Are you getting any ads on yours, Randy? I haven't looked.
Do I get what?
Do you get our ads imposed upon you as they are on WordPress if it's a
No.
free site?
No.
No, and actually, okay. That's good information to have. All
I
right.
think you can, and you would get money a little bit every day, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right. So I went back to my main blogger page. Here's Dear Myrtle. If I had other blogs or I wanted to create another blog, not a post, but a totally new blog for quilting, for instance, that's where I'd go. But I want to talk just for about two to three more minutes about layout and pages and themes. Theme is what it looks like. And by default, you have a theme. But you can pick a theme that is delightful to you. Like, I kind of like this one, just because I like those colors. These are preset. They can also be customized. You could go deep down the rabbit hole for all that. I mean, there are a lot of options here. Let's just see what this one looks like. We'll apply this. And now we're going to click to view the blog, open on a new tab. And let's see. So there's nothing here. When there's nothing here, that's something we need to fix, and that's something I can teach you. Um, yeah, it's not showing my post because I haven't actually published it yet. Um, yeah, it does show up in draft. Under posts, there it says draft.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, let's go to settings. This is the thing that I'd like you to see. Right by default, it's visible to search engines. I'm going to turn that option off because I don't want to confuse the world with a second blog post or blog location. But if you ever forget what your blog address is, there it is. The custom domain is the stuff that Randy has done, and he used the redirect option. Blog admins, I always had cousin Russ and my daughter Carrie as other people to invite as blog posters. So Russ could fix something if needed. Just a minute. Here's where you invite a new one. So I'll get Dear Myrtle, which would help. Just type it in. And yeah. And here's where you can restrict to only the authors or to custom readers, and you would have to list every person by their email address if it was only going to be for your immediate siblings. I know someone who what used Blogger, Bertie Holsclaw, a very well-regarded genealogist who used to live in Colorado. She's since passed away. She was doing research and wanted this was before Google Drive and where you could have Google Sheets and documents, Google Docs where you could, it's like Microsoft Word. She did all her research in Blogger in a private blog that only she saw, and she was doing it on orphans in Colorado. And she wanted it so she could access it anywhere. So if she was in a library, that had internet access, she could go and make comments and make a post to herself about. I mean, that's the only reason I could see making it private, just to the authors. But it could be public. I'm going to say private to the authors only because I don't want the world to see something. Randy, do you have 7 posts on the main page? I always did 1.
I have 10, I think.
Okay. And so that meant we could scroll down for the last 10 posts you made.
Yeah, and then there's another folder link, and it will go to the next 10.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that will cover about a week. Yeah.
Okay. Next week we will take a little bit of time and I will show you how to I've showed you how to make it private, keep it private for a while. They can be in draft mode, don't hit the publish button. But I want to show you how to set up the layout.
Okay.
And I'll only take a few minutes. There's a default layout because of the theme that we selected. But you remember there was one part that was empty or said there's nothing here, and show you how to edit that. Okay, and let's see what kind of comments we're getting from the community here. Okay. So somebody asked, how do you subscribe to the blog? Oh gosh, I got all kinds. Monta, this was been for you, hasn't it? You're the one that asked about this, I think. How do you subscribe to a blog? And there's a couple of people, a couple of ways. So you use blog. If you want a daily email, that's okay. Good point. Randy has the ability now to send URLs over to both sides. Let's see. Why does it list the blog as draft? Because I haven't hit the publish button. So let me go back to that post where it's in draft mode, and we'll click on it to pull it up. Oh, we're in HTML mode. Let's change it to compose mode. Yes, switch. Here's the publish button. And
we can't see your screen.
oh, thank you. That is an important part. There's the publish button, upper right-hand corner. You can make posts and set them to go live another day. But I just didn't click publish. So it is in draft mode. Okay. What is this? She hasn't posted yet, and Blogger's a little... No, it isn't that Blogger is slow. It's me. I didn't hit publish. Okay, and then... so Paul likes to get things by email as opposed to Feedly, which is what I use to aggregate. I'm having trouble with my words today, but that's okay. All right, and Feedly will come in a little bit here. So if we go to genealogy, and this is slow, it's probably my internet. See the importance of a graphic? We've got 6 posts here, and 2 of them have no graphic. The impact is important to note. Comes to quilting, the quilting gals certainly have their act together, theoretically, possibly. Yeah, that looks very interesting. But then all the people I subscribe to are pretty tech savvy. So I'm telling you, you can be tech savvy too. Add a graphic on every blog post. Okay. Where are we in our comments? Okay. Feedly has another option to read it whenever you want. Yes. That's Feedly means I go to feedly.com, I'm automatically logged in, and this means that this website is aggregating the blogs that I'm interested in, and it could be photography or podcasting or gardening, and it is taking a while for the post to I can't imagine a gardening post without a graphic. Seriously. This is free, and I think you hit the mark at 1,000. So I have several Feedly accounts. Okay. Now, what's the next question? Valerie wants to know: do you pre-plan your blog topics, or do your topics on the fly? Do you keep a spreadsheet of your daily, weekly blog topics to track what you've already posted? You don't need to keep track of what you've already posted, because remember that listing where it shows my post? That continues, and it becomes searchable as you add more posts. We only have one here at the time. And it is searchable, and you can look for all of them that are published, in draft, scheduled, or that you've already sent to the trash. That being said, let me ask Randy, you used those themes initially, right? And that got you in the habit of blogging?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a mental calendar. If it's Monday, then it's amanuensis Monday and
Amanuensis,
potpourri, you know?
Yeah.
If something comes up, I still have time on Monday for something unplanned. Someone announces a new database. Legacy releases a new version of their software, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do the plan post the day before usually. So the day I'll do tomorrow is 2 posts, and then you know, and update them. The one tomorrow, the genealogy news bites, I do today, and then tomorrow in the morning I will update it for anything I came across since. So
Okay.
I copy and paste a lot.
Yeah, because now it's just the yeah, you've got your sign off at the bottom,
Yeah,
you've got your whatever at the top, and here's the new content in the middle.
yeah. Well,
Um,
Blogger right now has some editing problems um, because I can't change image size.
I noticed that.
It's only been a week, so something's happening there. I can't change colors of text. Um,
Afterwards.
URLs don't work. URLs don't work sometimes. It posts as null, and and people will have to. So I now I'm doing a lot of posts in a word processor first. I can copy and paste from the word processor to the blog, but the text font isn't always the right size. So there's all kinds of issues right now with Blogger.
Great. And I that's what when I chose to turn people onto it. Oh. Well,
Yeah, I know.
uh, um Lisa, our friend, says she keeps a spreadsheet with the blog she's posted along with the URL and her subject. I'm just letting that list of what's published or in draft do the job. But I will say this. In the olden days, when I first considered blogging, there was this guy named Dick Eastman that said he was going to blog once a week. And he is over on CompuServe. And we were on AOL with people like Drew Smith and George Morgan and a bunch of other folks that we all know and love that have been in the genealogy vertical for a long time. And I thought, I wonder if I could blog every day. And so I had a calendar and I decided that on Thursdays, this was way before Genia bloggers, Randy, before the whole carnival thing.
Mhm.
I decided on Thursdays I'd write about a census record of any type. It could be from any country, from any place. It could be my research. It could be something else or something I read at History Hub. That's the National Archives. It wasn't called they didn't have History Hub, but they did have their Prologue magazine online, and I might quote that from an archivist who is an expert on census records or census enumerators directions or what those abbreviations meant in the 1910 census. And so I figured, okay, there's all the Thursdays are taken care of, right? And another another day of the week it would be a colloquialism or something that is a family tradition, like um our summer Olympic croquet games or or that grandmother used to always served baked chicken, a whole baked chicken for Sunday dinner. And so when our dad had us for the weekend and before he had a had a home to move to after our parents were divorced, we'd go to Grandma Myrtle's for the weekend. And she would always tell us we were wasting and not getting all the chicken off the bone. And so she'd have us pass them over and she'd make soup out of that. She'd, clean it off. I mean, she was a stickler about that. Or about my other grandmother, who would have us come to the door of her apartment, and before we could go in, she'd have us hold out our hands to see if our hands were clean. And she'd look in our ears to see if our ears were cleaned, and if they were not, she diverted us to the restroom to take care of that matter immediately. Like, I don't know why she did that. It was just a funny thing. But my brother remembers that. My sister was too little. Yeah. So I had a month's worth of topics, and they did kind of repeat periodically, like the census, but it was a different take on that topic of a census. And Um, but people started asking me questions in that first month, and I had it for 90 days worked out, and I never went back. Um, After that first month, I just relied on what people were talking about, what people were asking me about. And when I retired 2 years ago, I had to tu turn off my Myrt at dearmyrtle.com email because I was still getting 600 emails per day, and I wasn't blogging that prolifically. I was doing Mondays with Myrt, of course. So, it's a good idea to calendar. Let's see. Yeah. Gwen, I love it. We made Christmas ornaments from our old AOL CDs. Yeah, and Myra Vanderpool Gormley was over there on Prodigy, and yeah, the old AOL genealogy forum, working as host when we were mere toddlers, Val. All very good. So that's a good question. Type in the chat and tell us who your favorite bloggers are. That's a very good question. Let me know. We so so AOL extended beyond the confines of the United States waters, huh? You had it
Yep.
over there and you used them as coasters in a computer lab. Yeah, Maria has a technical question. We got to get it moving because we have other topics to discuss, but I will entertain this question. Gwen has the perfect answer. I agree. That he does a wonderful job. Do you need to ask an author of a web page if it's okay before referring to their web page on your blog post, or can you just refer to it and add a link? Well, you can refer to it. It's whether or not you're going to quote something. And Andrew was over on CompuServe, and I had to sign on to CompuServe, get an account, just to hear Dick Eastman do a type chat. And I said, here, didn't I? It was only type chat. We couldn't do this voice and sharing screens and all that cool stuff. And yeah, there were those times listening to the modem going, da, 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 till you connected. Yeah. Judy Russell, the legal genealogist and several DNA bloggers. All right. Yeah, Randy, let's bring up your blog post about DNA. You had a guest blogger. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, Marshall's my friend here, and he's a real techie guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he every week saves his common ancestor list on Ancestry DNA
Mm-hmm.
and compares this week's list with last week's list. He's adept at programming. Fantastic. And so he notices that things that matches drop off or matches are added, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got the new Ancestry DNA match list with semi-square group buttons instead of circle buttons, and noticed that he had fewer. You're not showing the blog post. I'm sorry.
I think I am now.
Okay, good. Yeah, you are now.
It took me a minute.
Yeah.
It's probably my internet, and we've got everything locked down. This is the only computer logging, only device logging on our internet.
Yeah. So he's showing the list from before, and then later, and then one of the next images on the post,
Mm-hmm.
shows the new list, and
Mm-hmm.
he had like 400 in this list of common ancestors, and now he's got 300. What happened to 20% or 25% of them?
That's awful.
Yeah, well, that's stuff like that happens. So he talked to Ancestry 3 or 4 times, always a different expert or vendor, whatever, and they have no clue. They the response is, well, the system's in beta, but you can't go back to the old one.
Yeah, that is literally frightening.
Yeah, so I posted it on Facebook and nobody's seen it. 3 people have commented. I have looked at it.
Right.
I did I did highlight Krista Cowan and asked her
I saw that.
what's happening.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're formulating a response, maybe. Anyway, so that's the deal, and so I can put that link in the chat too if you want.
Okay. That would be great now that you can do that. This is, and this involves, he called on June 6th. He called before that on the 31st. Yeah. He sent in the description. So he was, oh, and then here, yeah, the new interface is unreliable and inconsistent. This is exactly the
This is how bloggers can work well, or blogging can work well.
yeah. It gets a job done for getting the word out to the public as well as to Ancestry. This is why we need to be sure that we pull the information of our match list as soon as we can get to it, so that if something like this happens, you haven't really lost them. Yeah, Frank.
And was the most important people too on your match list. You know, the ones that they think you're related to.
Yeah. This is the challenge with coding and revising things, is there can be unintended consequences, and this is a pretty drastic one. Oh, let's see. Yeah, there's the link to the post, so everybody has that. And let's see what else we've got. Oh, here's some more about the favorite bloggers. Thank you very much, though, Randy, for sharing this. This is a good reason to blog. And it's okay if your blog post is about something like your family document, and then you do something like this. This is the way to get the word out, because you're going to have your followers, just like Randy and Amy Johnson Crow and Diane Southard, and I think the gals over at Family Locket, the elders, Dick Eastman. It can be whatever you need it to be. And thank you for that. Now, in that same vein, something happened. You do this other post periodically. So let me pull this up and I'll give you the link, but we don't need the mobile link. Okay. Tell me what happened when you do this every week or so. I think you only miss when you're in the hospital.
Yeah.
And we gave you time out, so that's okay. Okay, so what do you, yeah.
This week, Marshall does this for me too. He has the program. It samples all the historical record collection list on Family Search, and he sends it to me on Friday night. So I copy and paste it into this blog post every week, and keep track of how many collections there are. And so this last week, there was a decrease of 2 from the week previous. So he has a program that does this, and then right at so scroll down. Yeah. So they deleted 2 collections this last week, and they deleted several more the week before, and then they've added some. So they deleted the candidate census for 1931. It said, and they added the United States Census for 1950, which had already been there before. So we don't know why this happens. There's reasons. They may be that there are contract issues with something. The Zimbabwe thing maybe is a contract issue, or the Argentina military records. We don't know. The Argentina one you see is 1 index records with 1 record images. But they may be, and they've updated just about every collection they have on Family Search in the last 3 weeks. updated. The posts were massive long. I didn't do one last week of all the updates. Uh,
Do you?
so that may be indexing issues, and there may be linking issues. That that they link to all these collections, and each collection has a link to an image, or could have a link to an image. So there may be problems with things like that. If they're using Library and Archives Canada for the images, there may be the LAC may have changed something. Don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
just don't know. So
We don't know why it changed, but it changed.
yeah, the Canada Census, I believe, is online. I was able to access it today on Family Search. Uh,
Okay.
I went to the wiki and looked for the link, and but that link on the wiki right now takes you to Library Archives Canada. Okay, but then
Okay.
I used a previous link from when they added it back in January this year. They added the index, and
Mm-hmm.
that one works.
So this is a perfect example of why we need to put the date we viewed an image at Family Search. It it may be under Canada Census 1931. It may be under 1931 Canadian Census, if that's what they named the records at. That's one thing they do is they rename give it a different name. And yeah, now we're seeing this matches. This matches because they're putting locality, what it is, and then the time period. Maybe that's one thing they're doing is getting things to be consistently listed by locality, type of record. I don't know. I don't know. And you're right, contracts can expire, or when pointing to a different website, it could have gone away. Let's see. Betty Lou, who does a lot of indexing, says they may be going to re-index the 1931 Canadian census. They are currently indexing the 1921 Canadian census. And Betty Lou, can you tell me that's what you're seeing in the Family Search indexing? Is that our 10-minute warning shot, Maria, that I just heard?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Let's see what else is coming in. Okay, I think we're good. I think we caught up on everything. So yeah, so Elizabeth Schoen Mills was smart to tell us that at the end of our citation, in parentheses, we put the root of the website, familysearch.org, space, colon, space, and then the date viewed. And I just put viewed, space, and then the date, end of parentheses, period. Yeah. Talk to me about this comment of yours, Frank, please.
Yeah. I sadly learned the hard way to back up pictures of my sources, even when I'm certain that they are online forever. Something can happen and will happen. So back it up.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that the hard way when the company that was in charge for the obituaries of the almost all major newspapers in Brandenburg simply changed overnight from one company to another. And obviously, the new company didn't want to sell the old ones for all the old obituaries, but publish the new ones only. So they simply dropped them.
Simply dropped it. Oh, they did not want. I mean, that's frightening. This is why we all need our own genealogy program on our computer.
So
Or yes.
So, as I wanted the obituary back, I needed to go to the newspaper archive and pull up the original printed one.
Crazy.
There is no
Very
backup of the old online ones. None.
That is extremely frustrating. Very, very frustrating when that happens. You need to clip it, cite it right then in the text box underneath the image so you know where you got it and the date you viewed it. And with a proper citation, yeah, it's good. Randy, what do you do? And then we'll take Gwen's comment.
Which one?
I save to my downloads
Oh,
all the images you used.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do that, uh, especially for things like newspaper articles, especially for the full text stuff. I have a file in a folder now for full text articles to transcribe, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, you've got to you have to set up a normal system like that.
yeah.
Gwen, you had a comment here. Wait a minute, not that comment. The it was higher up. Here we are. I think you need to go back and update your. Nope, that wasn't the comment either. Talk to me. What are you? We're suddenly talking about Family Search Labs. What's up?
Oh, I was just, what I was doing is if I found something with the Family Search Labs full text search, then what I would do is I would go in because this, you don't really get a source citation for the document, so you have to
No.
go back to the beginning of the file, or whichever file it is, and look for the actual like physical page name or whatever whatever the document is called, because you don't really get that in source citation. So I was going in and I was doing those in the source box, and then I'd go back and attach them later, and I'm like, maybe I need to attach it earlier than later and put what you guys are talking about was recommended as far as the date that I accessed it, because that's going to obviously change because that's just the experimental.
Very good point. And a lot of people are having great breakthroughs in that collection. Land records and probate records, etc. Yeah, that full text search. Randy says there's the post. Okay, I think we've got it. All right. This is the lightning round, and I'm going to share my screen again. This is Steve Little's blog for his discussions about artificial intelligence. And remember last week we talked about how BCG is considering what to do with AI in the certification process, etc., and that the ICAP Gen people, the accreditation group, have a blanket statement issued that any use of AI was forbidden. And as we pointed out, that's Grammarly and spell check. That's AI. Yeah. And his comment is that something in the middle needs to be happening. And the middle ground approach sounds pretty reasonable to me. This rule suggests that if we are very accustomed to the fact that if human assistance is allowed for a task, like I can't use an assistant if I'm submitting a portfolio, but if I'm collaborating on a blog post, I can mention that person. AI assistant should also be permissible. So if disclosure is required when a human helps with something, there's our 10-minute warning bell. I can hear it. Yeah. Similarly, if disclosure is required when a human helps with something, it should also be required if AI is used. Interesting, good, middle of the road approach. So how would that look in my world? If I created a blog post and I had used AI like Transcribus, ask me what's happening next week before we sign off. If I use Transcribus to help me decipher old handwriting, and this is the old handwriting to text, then I should I would do that. I would disclose anyway that I had used AI because I want to show people. I mean, I don't want you to think I'm an expert on old handwriting. I try my best, but seriously, um, I like to show the process more and to spotlight what tools I get to use so that other people can start using those kind of tools. So if I did a blog post about a will, had been hard to read, but I used AI to transcribe it word for word. It looked like it was a pretty good match. That would also cover my what Valerie and I talked about earlier, my tushy. If AI had messed up and I didn't catch it, right? Good point. It's not required, but it makes sense. Now, in the case of a portfolio submission for certification with the Board for Certification of Genealogists, one of the things you have to do is take the document they send you and you have to transcribe that handwritten document and return it. You can't use AI for that
No.
because in the portfolio submissions, whether it's kinship determination, that handwriting analysis, interpretation, etc., you can't have help from a human. And using Steve suggested the human rule, middle ground rule, you can't use AI in that case either.
Mm.
Yeah, tricky stuff to be thinking about. Okay, I said I had something to tell you about transcribus. Next week, Yvette Hotink will be here, and she gave a presentation at the National Genealogical Society about the use of AI. And she's one very smart cookie. Um, she's just now getting her doctorate from the University of Dundee. She's the one that's also working on the very last generation in the 14th generation to find proof, documentary evidence of her relationship to Eleanor of Aquitaine. She traveled to France to do some on site, in person research. Can you imagine holding a document
Wow.
from that many centuries ago? Pretty darn cool. All right. Anything else? Oh, Randy's added some of his favorite bloggers. And you know, one of our all of our panelists, there's a couple who are not here today that are very good bloggers. I don't know Doris Kenny, but I've seen the name before.
Yeah, the
Um,
blog is A Tree with No Name. It's a great
that's it.
name.
Yeah,
It's a great name. She's
yeah,
very good. Yeah,
yeah. And Roberta Estes helps explain uh, both, well, now AI as well as DNA.
yeah.
At our DNAexplained.com website. Wonderful. All very good. Yeah, if you want to learn about more blogs to possibly follow, be sure to catch this post from Randy. He does it every week. It's one of his regular things. The best of the Ginia blogs for the week. I used to do this when I would blog 8 or 9 posts a week. I just couldn't keep it up. You have much more staying power than I do, Randy. And I love that you do this because it turns me on to other bloggers that I may not have heard of. So, um, we think of a Venn diagram and the bloggers we know in common, but you help expand my thinking and you have great suggestions. So it's all good. All righty. Well, panelists, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Tune in next week. Next week is our last in this series. We try to work in 6 to 7 week sessions or series. We'll meet with Yvette Hotink, talk about transcribus. I'm going to discuss the layout. I have a sticky note in Blogger. Won't be a very long segment because I want to devote as much time as possible to transcribus. Then I will be on break but busy because I'm going to be attending GRIP, the Genealogical Research Institute of Pittsburgh, and the course coordinator is Steve Little himself. So I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot from Dana Leeds on AI, and I'm sure I'm smothering myself with AI so that I can have an informed opinion. Let's see, Gwen. Um, so Gwen, we need to give you the link to Yvette Hotink, and I will look that up and I will put it in comments underneath this Mondays with Myrt. Okay. And thank you, Valerie, and kudos to you for the compliment. And Flo says thank you. So, folks, there's nothing left to say, but I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.